What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here coming back at y'all with another Week 3 preview. We had one drop this morning previewing Cincinnati, a top 10 team in the country, traveling to face Indiana in a huge non-conference game to get Cincinnati a huge potential Power 5 win. But now we're going to, in my opinion, the game of the week. We got the number 22 Auburn Tigers traveling to Happy Valley to take on the number 10 Penn State Nittany Lions. 6:30 p.m. Central Time, live on ABC. It is in prime time. It's a whiteout. The fans are going to be ridiculous. College game day is going to kick it off. This game could not be any bigger for the stage of college football, and I am so excited to watch it go down. As I'm recording, the line is Penn State minus 6. So they are about a touchdown favorite over the Auburn Tigers. And, man, I cannot wait for this game. I just want to say that one more time. You know, for storylines, Penn State's looking to get a huge non-conference win over an SEC team, move to 3-0 as the Big Ten has officially become wide open. Ohio State getting upset by Oregon. Penn State and Iowa both making big top 10 runs going into this game. So for me, this is a game that could really set the tone for Penn State to be one of those next contenders to have a shot to get back to the Big Ten championship game. And they had a huge week 1 win over Wisconsin on the road in Madison. So Penn State's looking to notch a second signature win to their resume this week with another top 25 matchup. Now, Auburn is by far looking to get their biggest win of the Bryan Harsin era. They had 2 dominant wins, both scoring over 60 points, in which they had some, let's just say, they faced some outclassed teams, but they did it in dominant fashion. But how will the Tigers respond when they're faced with a top 10 opponent on the road for the first time in 2021 after 2 years of road woes for the offensive line and Bo Nix? This is Bryan Harsin's first monumental game as head coach for the Auburn Tigers. So how will he respond in this type of environment? Because there really couldn't be a bigger national stage than a college game day, ABC primetime, whiteout in Happy Valley. I mean, it is the recipe for an absolute legendary – it's a legendary stage for this game. Now, let's get into the keys for Penn State. And I know a lot of people are probably like, well, you got to run the ball, you got to do this. The key for Penn State is to keep Sean Clifford comfortable and let the playmakers around him for Penn State go win this game, because they have the weapons surrounding Sean Clifford to win this game. And they got great matchups across the board against this Auburn defense, in my opinion. Now, Clifford looked extremely uncomfortable in the first half against Wisconsin, hence the 0-0 halftime score, but he really settled in late and found a way to win the game. He hit Jahan Dotson on a huge touchdown pass to really kind of break that game open, and he looked solid last week against Ball State as well. He's completing over 63% of his passes, almost 500 yards passing, and 2 touchdowns. And the key stat, 0 interceptions. And if he continues that this weekend, Penn State has an outstanding shot to go out and win this game. And Clifford, doesn't get enough respect for this. He can go make plays with his legs. And with this Auburn D-line, which has shown some ability the first 2 games of the season to get upfield and get after the quarterback, he's got to take those broken plays, those opportunities to get out of the pocket and turn, a potential 5-10 yard loss into a 2 to 3 yard gain and or an explosive play. If he can make 1 or 2 guys miss, he's got to create something outside the pocket, and that is the key for Sean Clifford. And I mentioned the playmakers. I've mentioned this guy already. The X factor for this Penn State offense is Jahan Dotson at wide receiver, because he is going to be a matchup nightmare for everyone in that Auburn secondary, and he is by far the most explosive target for Clifford going into this weekend. Dotson is tied for the team lead in receptions. He is the receiving yards leader, and he's leading in touchdowns right now. Going into this matchup, he's going to probably be matched up with Roger McCreary, which is going to be a potential NFL versus NFL type matchup on the outside when Penn State has the ball. Now, I do want you to watch out for Parker, Washington, and Keiondre Lambert Smith as the next type of options. Washington's tied for the team lead in receptions and could see some extra opportunities due to Derek Mason and this Auburn defense scheming to take away Dotson, because he is by far the biggest threat on the outside of this Penn State team. And the reason I picked this key, let me break it down for y'all, is because the Auburn defense, even though they had some outclassed opponents, showed some weaknesses, especially last week early with short passes, and allowed Alabama State to put together some drives by just dinking and dunking their way down the field. And that is where someone like Sean Clifford can thrive with the athletes that Penn State has on the outside. Alabama State completed 14 passes underneath for almost over 100 yards and got 5 first downs, which led to their good drives until special teams and a blocked field goal and all that kind of took all the momentum away. But Penn State will have the athletes to take advantage of this, because even if they dump it low, their athletes can make people miss and turn those small 5-yard passes into 20, 30-yard gains and or worse. As long as Clifford can keep the ball out of danger, Penn State should be able to move the ball consistently this way, and it will help the O-line as Clifford gets the ball out very quick. It allows the athletes to go make plays in space, and for me, that is going to be the key for Penn State in this game. Now, Auburn, man, y'all see the jerseys, and, this channel is completely unbiased. So, if you're an Auburn fan, don't just think you're going to get, anything sugar-coated here. The key has to be to take the pressure off of Bo Nix, because he has been atrocious on the road away from Jordan Hare. But luckily, you have 2 explosive running backs in Tank Bigsby and Jaquez Hunter, because they have to keep Nix from having to carry this offense. The number one strength of this offense is rushing attack by far. They have arguably the best running back in college football in Tank Bigsby, who is the X factor for this game, who's rushed for over 240 yards, 10 yards per carry, and is going to have to be able to produce that again this weekend if Auburn stands a chance. Tank disappearing at times against Georgia, and, Tank being hurt against Alabama, and they've really hurt Auburn down the stretch. But when he's on, he can carry this team. You look at the Ole Miss game last year. You look at even the LSU game in that blowout. Tank Bigsby was able to kind of open things up for Bo Nix and this offense. But the key here also is that the emergence of Jaquez Hunter is something to watch. No one thought he was going to be the second guy on the rotation, but Sean Shivers kind of getting banged up in that first week really opened up a door for Hunter, and he's something to watch as he's averaging a ridiculous 15 yards per carry this season, and is actually the leading rusher for the Tigers throughout the first 2 games of the season. I want to see I know Tank is the incumbent guy. Jaquez has been showing some outstanding things. So I really want to see how Auburn, balances rotating these guys and keeping them fresh for late in the game. Because the problem with Tank last year is sometimes you could tell he just kind of got worn down by having to carry the offense as far as he did. Now, why this is important, I mentioned it before. Bo Nix's road struggles have been thoroughly documented, and this might be the most intimidating environment that he's seen thus far in his career. Yes, I understand he played in Death Valley, he's played in Bryant, he's played in Athens, but nothing is bigger than a whiteout in prime time when the fans have had 365 days not to be in that stadium, and you have the whole pressure of this Bryan Harsin era starting in the first real test for him on your shoulders. Nix has never had a 300-yard game away from Jordan Hare. He's thrown 10 interceptions away from Jordan Hare compared to only 3 INTs in the confines of Jordan Hare. He has to stay composed, and he cannot allow his internal clock to be sped up, because it has cost Auburn time and time again, especially as you look, Auburn has only won twice in their past 8 road games, both coming in the state of Mississippi and Starkville and Vaught-Hemingway down there in Ole Miss, and both of those environments are not going to compare, and neither of those teams are going to compare to the defense he's going to see. You saw it in Athens last year. Once they got pressure on him early, even when the pocket was clean, he would bail and put himself in bad situations outside the pocket. He's got to find a way to keep that internal clock in check, keep his nerves in check, and make sure he stands tall in the pocket, because the whole rolling out thing and trying to make plays every single time out of the pocket is going to get you beat, just like it did against South Carolina and just like it did against Georgia last season. Now, the matchup to watch has been one that has haunted Auburn in recent years on the road, but it's going to be the Auburn offensive line against this Penn State front seven. And this matchup not only could determine the winner, but could determine whether this game's even close. Auburn's offensive line, even as an Auburn grad here, has been the biggest weakness for the Tigers for like 3-4 seasons now. Gus Malzahn could not recruit O-line for some reason and could not develop it. The Tigers struggle to communicate, they struggle to execute, and that cannot be the case this weekend, or they are going to get blown out. Auburn's offensive line had 2 weeks to gel and get ready for this test. You look at Austin Troxell, Brandon Council, Nick Brahms, Keiondre Jones, and Broderius Helm all have to bring their A game. Troxell especially. He is at that tackle spot, the ever-important tackle spot. And last year, he was the lowest-graded pass blocker on the Tigers' offensive line with a 36 grade by Pro Football Focus in pass blocking. He allowed 15 hurries and almost 20 total pressures on Bo Nix. That cannot be the case this weekend. If he fails on the edge, which is one of the strengths for this Penn State team, Auburn is going to be in for a long day. Now, the offensive line thus far has done an excellent job in run blocking, but if they can bring this pass blocking aspect of their game to that level, this O-line has the ability to be special and one of the best in the SEC, and they still have guys who have some eligibility left. So next year could be the year, but they got to find a way this weekend to put together one of their better performances that we've seen in recent history. Now, Brent Pry, the defensive coordinator for Penn State, is going to have this defense flying around. He's been one of the most accomplished D coordinators in the country, and this is one of the most experienced and productive units in the country coming into this year. According to 247 Sports, over the past 7 seasons, Penn State ranked second in the country, only behind Clemson in sacks per game. They ranked third in QB hurries behind Bama and Clemson, and fourth in total pressures generated. This season, in only 2 games, Penn State has 13 hits on the quarterback, 11 pressures, and 3 sacks. They will get after the quarterback. Arnold, I believe it's Becky, and Nick Burton are going to be the 2 edge guys to watch. Now, Derek Tangelo in the middle is a defensive tackle that I think has very, very high upside based on his film. I love him on the inside of the defensive line, so watch out for Tangelo as well. Now, I mentioned front 7, not just D-line, because there's a linebacker. And this whole linebacking core is legit. They're effective at blitzing, all that. But Ellis Brooks, outside linebacker, kind of like an edge guy, is someone in this scheme that can absolutely get after Bo Nix. 5.5 sacks in his career, and he's going to be something to watch. Watch out for Brooks being that specialized blitz option to find a way to get in Bo Nix's face. And so why I picked this is, 1, Penn State has to find a way to get in Bo Nix's face, make him uncomfortable, and speed up his decision-making like I was talking about earlier. Once that happens, this Auburn offense really seems to fall apart every single time we see them on the road. While Auburn, they know they have to protect Bo Nix if they have any chance at winning. If you take Bo Nix out of it, Tank Bigsby and Jaquez Hunter cannot do what they do. And Bo Nix struggled early against Alabama State last week. That can't happen. Alabama State was making the offensive line confused with just doing basic stunts in which they were bringing the D inside. They were just stunting, twisting, all that kind of stuff. And it really confused Auburn's offensive line at times. Penn State is going to be 1,000 times worse. They're going to have a great blitzing scheme. They're going to have better athletes. Auburn's offensive line has to find a way to figure it out and find a way to protect Bo Nix, because I'm telling you that is going to be the key to this game. Now, I know if you're new to this channel, you probably tuned in and you're like, oh my God, there's the Auburn jerseys. This guy is going to be unbiased. Man, this channel is way more important than any Auburn fandom I have. So for me, looking at everything, I think, 1, If this game was in Jordan Hare, it'd probably be a whole different story because you're talking about an entirely different Auburn team. But as a guy who has watched every Auburn game for as far back as I can imagine, and I did a lot of film on Penn State leading up to this episode, Penn State, in my opinion, has the better defensive line. They have the more experienced defensive spots. And also, I trust Sean Clifford at home more than I trust Bo Nix on the road. I think Jahan Dotson is going to be a factor. He's going to get a few explosive plays. And I just think Bo Nix is going to make one too many mistakes on the road in the whiteout in Happy Valley for Auburn to win. I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be relatively low scoring. So I have Penn State 27, Auburn 23. They don't cover the 6-point spread, but Penn State is going to make just a play or two more than what I expect Bo Nix and Auburn to make. So I got the Nittany Lions 27, Auburn 23. And I think this is going to be one of the better games of the weekend. These teams are so evenly matched, and the matchups across the positional matchups across the board are going to be so interesting to watch. And this game, to me, could have went either way. It's just home field advantage. And the history of Auburn on the road is just too much to overcome, in my opinion. So I got the Nittany Lions 27, Tigers 23. Guys, if you're new, hit that subscribe button, man. Join the Blue Bloods. We got the best, the highest quality college football content right here on YouTube. Hit that like button, man. It helps us out, and I appreciate it. And also share with anyone who you know cares about college football, because I promise you they are also going to want to subscribe to the Blue Bloods. But we got another preview coming out this afternoon. Check out our Cincinnati, Indiana preview from this morning. Alabama versus Florida dropping at 3 p.m. Central Time today. So that's why you got to subscribe and turn on that post notification bell. But the Nittany Lions win a close one, in my opinion, at Auburn. Guys, comment your score predictions below and let me know who you think wins this game. And for me, I think this is going to be such a great game, and I can't wait to see the environment. But guys, for right now, the Blue Bloods are out.